Today we'll be finding trigonometric functions, or basic trigonometric functions using calculators. You'll be using calculators a lot with trigonometric functions because you can't actually do them without calculators as it gets harder and harder. So you need to know when to use a calculator and when you can't use a calculator. So for example, if you have a right triangle like this, and then you have the angle x here, and let's say that this side is 8, this side is 6, and this side is 10. What would the sine of x be? And in this case, you don't need a calculator, right? Because we know that sine is the opposite side over the hypotenuse, and opposite side from x is 6, hypotenuse is 10, right? So that reduces to 3/5. And you don't need a calculator to solve this. But sometimes you don't know the sides of the triangle, but you do know the angle. So let's say that this is 10 degrees. You know the angle, but you don't know the sides. In this case, you do actually need a calculator to solve this. And in the calculator, you'll need to plug in what is sine of 10 degrees. And it should give you, let me actually do that on the calculator right now. Sine of 10 degrees, that's about 0.174. Now, what does this mean? This means that if you divide, so let's say that the opposite side is x, hypotenuse, actually let's not use x since we already have x here. Let's use a, b, and c, since that's what we use for Pythagorean theorem. This means that if we divide the opposite side by the hypotenuse, it is going to equal 0.174. Now, isn't that going to change when we have a different triangle? Because we can draw another triangle with the same angle just by extending these sides. So, oops. That's 10 degrees. Let's say that that was the original triangle we had. This blue triangle was the original triangle we had. We can extend this without touching the angle, without touching this 10 degrees. We can extend this. Is the ratio of A to C still going to be the same? And it turns out, yes. The ratio of the sides of a right triangle is going to be the same as long as the angles are not the same. Or angles are the same, sorry. As long as the angles are the same, it means the ratio of the sides are going to be constant. Okay, and this is actually because if one of the angles of a right triangle are equal to another, let's have another right triangle here. This is 10 degrees here. The third angle are also going to be equal because they have to add up to 180 degrees, right? So this is 90 right here. That is 10 right there. So this has to be 80. And similarly, if I have another triangle where one of the non-right angle is 10, this has to be 90, and that's going to be 80. Right? The two triangles have the same three angles. They have the same three angles, which means that they are similar triangles. So in a right triangle, as long as one angle are the same, one angle that is not the right angle, if they're the same, it means the two triangles are similar. So that's why the ratio of the sides, A to C, let me use a different letter here. J and K. So A to C is going to equal J to K. That's property of similar triangles. The sides are proportionate. Okay, so once you know one angle, you can find the trigonometric function of that angle just by plugging it in the calculator. You can't actually do this without a calculator. You can do this without a calculator for certain angles, but for most angles, you'll have to use a calculator for these ones. And same thing for cosine and tangent. If you want to find the cosine of 10 degrees, you can plug that into the calculator. Or if you want tangent of 10 degrees, you have to plug that into the calculator. Okay, and this, so it's not really interesting. You're just solving things by plugging things in the calculator. But the thing to take away from this is that the ratio of the sides of a right triangle are always going to be constant, no matter what as long as the angles are the same. So if the angles are kept constant, it means the trigonometric functions, because the trigonometric functions are the ratio of the sides, the trigonometric functions are going to stay constant as well. Okay, so practice finding the trigonometric functions of some of the angles using a calculator. You'll have to be more comfortable with using calculators as you progress with trigonometric functions.